So, do you struggle manifesting your desires? Well, today I'm going to explain how manifestation works with a sprinkling of science-based info along the way. Even though I wrote much of this about 11 years ago or so, much of it is actually now being scientifically verified as the very nature of reality. So the manifestation techniques that people think of as woo-woo are slowly having scientific method agree with them. So let's get into understanding how it works. Hello my friend, Edward here, your holistic guide on a mission to provide you with the tools, techniques and understanding how to create the world you want to see and step into the life of your dreams. Now that's what I call conscious engineering. Let's get into the journey. First, some building blocks to tie in the basics, and then we'll get onto the higher concepts as we go along. And if there's anything that gives you an aha moment, comment below. And if there's anything that gives you a huh moment, well, comment below too and get the conversation flowing. In recent years, modern scientists have increasingly become aware of the chaos theory and its related branches, more particularly in relation to our journey, the theories of cause and effect, and not just local causality, but more on that later. Before we dive into physics, let's make the assumption that some event causes another event to occur, its resultant effect. For example, if I take a hammer and hit an egg, this will cause it to smash. Okay, this is a very simple example, but it illustrates the point nicely. In the same way, every thought you have causes some kind of action to occur, which includes non-action. You would have to visualize the action of smashing the egg before you would start using the hammer to achieve the end result. Thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, which lead to results. But where exactly is the defining moment that originates the ultimate cause of a smashed egg in front of you? Even before the visualization, another event occurs to create the desire itself to follow this sequence of events. But is it this which is the defining moment, the causal singularity of the event? I'll come to that later, but first we need to cover some other ground for it all to start making sense. Each event that occurs is more or less likely to occur based on the previous one and its related events. In our egg-sighting example, each step along the causal event chain is dictated by probability. The desire to perform the action causes us to pick up the hammer. In other words, the desire itself causes a swing in the probability that you are more likely to pick up the hammer than not. And you could use your hand or do nothing instead, or a million other possibilities for that matter. But before I get too immersed in this chain of thinking, I must clear up that probable and possible are two different things here. Probable means something is most likely to occur, and possible is something that may occur, but probably outweighed by other more probable options. Get the picture? Right, okay, let's be getting on. The implications of this are quite mind-boggling, because if you consider the desire itself, you are led to ask the question, so what caused the desire in the first place? What exactly made the shift in probability from 50-50, let's assume, to your favour of beating the living daylights out of the egg? This illustrates the complexity of the causal model, and despite the linear appearance of cause and effect, there are many related events off to the side of each prior event in the chain that exert influence over the current event, shifting its probability from probable to possible, or vice versa. Unfortunately, there are two camps in this argument that say that either A, the less local an event is to the one being observed, then the less probable it is to have an effect on it, or B, that the distance between the two events has no impact on the probability of it affecting it. We must always be mindful here that it is not a binary decision point, either it does or it does not affect it. It's a spectrum, and the question is how much will it affect it, and how significant is this effect in adjusting the probability in the causal event chain. Okay, now I pulled a rabbit on you in the last paragraph. I brought into a play observation, the bane of all experimenters, but it also emphasises the effect of cause and effect. Let us observe the classic Schrödinger's cat for a better understanding of this principle. In 1935, Erwin Schrödinger, Austrian physicist and father of quantum mechanics, put forward his famous cat paradox. This illustrates how quantum mechanics provides no way of predicting the precise outcome of a single observation or measurement. Instead, it can only tell you the probability that the system you are studying will be in a given state only when you observe it. That is, in the language of quantum mechanics, when the wave function collapses. And until that moment, the system is described in terms of a mixture of all possible states states of probability, or a probability cloud. Although quantum mechanics was developed to describe the behavior of matter at an atomic level, Schrödinger chose to illustrate the peculiarity of the quantum description with something easier to imagine: a cat in a box, together with a radioactive atom. And when that radioactive atom decays, it produces a signal in a detector that will activate a valve to release poison gas in the box. Now, quantum mechanics cannot tell us the precise moment in which the atom will decay, and so it cannot tell us whether the cat is alive or dead at any given instant. Instead, we must regard the cat as being in a quantum mechanical mixture of both states, i.e. dead and alive simultaneously. Okay, so if that's true, i.e. the contents of the box are in stasis until the wave function collapses at the point of observation, what happens if we now expand this postulate across space? Let's bring on Schrödinger's kittens. Now, let us take two little kittens and put them each in a separate sphere. Each sphere is connected to the other by a very thin, long, hollow tube, smaller than each kitten so they don't go wandering backwards and forwards. Into each sphere, we put the detector and the poison and enough food for the long space flight to come. We're not that heartless. Then, into this sealed environment, exactly halfway along the interconnecting tube, we introduce a single radioactive particle as before, and then shortly afterwards separate the two halves of the craft by introducing a complete seal between them and set the two halves drifting off across space. Therefore, we cannot say with any certainty which half the radioactive particle is in. At some point in the future, one of the crafts lands intact on a planet and is discovered by its intelligent inhabitants. Curious to see what's inside, they gaze through the little portal we generously provided and see? Well, as before, the kitten would be alive or dead upon observation, but the state of the kitten in the intervening journey is indeterminate and only quantified as a probability. This demonstrates the effect of non-locality at the point of observation, in that the state of both spheres is determined by the observation of one sphere, providing we accept that the cat is in either one state or the other and has had a healthy and possibly fun time drifting across space with a capsule full of food. If that inhabitant saw a living cat, then by deduction, the other cat must be dead. However, this could not be proven until it too was also observed, though the original observation has already created certainty for the other condition. Still with me? Good. Then I'd appreciate it if you boop the like button to show YouTube it's really enlightening content and help it spread to more seekers like you. Amazing. Thank you. Okay. So far, we've seen that things are just plain complicated out there. We've also seen that events cause other events to happen, and that's key. And we have also seen that it's extremely difficult to isolate the causal or originating event for a particular effect that we have observed. In addition, until an event is observed, we cannot determine its state, only its probability of occurring, and that this probability may be affected by otherwise unexpected events, i.e. non-locality. Good. Glad we're on the same page. Now let's go talk to the doctor. To take another example, imagine you're playing pinball. You launch the ball up the ramp and it rolls around and drops onto one of those little rubber stoppers. It bounces off in line with a number of possible directions. Since a circle is round and it has an infinite number of sides, there is an infinite number of possibilities where it could go. However, the probable direction of the bounce is indicated by where it strikes the stopper on the right, and it bounces right, on the left and it goes left. And this can be affected by other local and non-local events, but for now the important point is that one event can cause an infinite number of possibilities. And here's the crunch. The final direction of travel, the probable direction, is determined by the product of the acting effect vectors on the event of impact, thus reducing the possible situations to a probable outcome occurring when it's observed, i.e. it goes right or left. The same is true of our perception of time. We perceive our direction of travel as straight. In other words, time is linear and we're going forward in that direction, carried forward by some causal momentum. When we consider the event model we have built up in, for now, 3 dimensions, then our actual direction of travel from the perspective of an outside observer may be a wiggly path through the maze of events, filling their perception of view, hardly straight like the pinball on the pinball machine. And I bet you didn't know you were already a time traveller, did you? Though this is actually getting a little bit ahead of ourselves into the next section where it all starts to come together, so let's dial it back a little bit. The hard part to get your head round is when we add non-locality, so that every event in this perception field, which is infinite, has an effect on the probability of the direction of likelihood from the current event to the next event. In effect, all events are in contact causally. In addition, depending on your current event position, the likelihood of one event affecting you varies. Remember the hammer and the egg? The probability of the egg smashing when you pick up the hammer is a lot less likely than when you actually hit it, but the event of the egg itself is unchanged until some other event causes a shift in probability in its own event bubble. Don't forget that everything has its own event bubble and its own path. What I have explained in my own way is quantum reality. Everything is connected and everything is energy. But the key distinction here, and where we discover the secret of manifestation, is that we operate in a space-time bubble, a three-dimensional reality, while the universe operates with total interconnectedness where our perceptions of dimensions cease to have any relevance. This is referred to as time-space. Essentially, the universe, or source, creation, or however you want to refer to it, is where the point of causality, the origin of the cascade of probability to create an event like smashing our egg, begins, and we must venture into this maelstrom to be able to influence these probabilities. If we could step into this quantum time-space realm, we would be able to witness all possible three-dimensional realities around us and be able to step into the one we choose. And that's why our other observer may see our path through time as wibbly-wobbly and not linear as we do. They are viewing it from a time-space perspective. When we choose the reality we want, time-space flips to become space-time, where everything is less mutable and conforms to the parameters of that reality bubble. What we are, in effect, doing with our manifestation practices is elevating our mind state, our subconscious, if you will, back into this realm and influencing the probability of our desired manifestation. Our physical body cannot step through, so we have to work in the sphere of our mind and our emotions to train this ability. Thoughts lead to feelings, lead to actions, lead to results. The thoughts and feelings that we need to create are in the time-space realm, while the actions and results occur in our space-time realm. But we need to detach from our lower emotional states that are generated locally in the space-time bubble, things like anger, jealousy, revenge, boredom, and so on, as these are born of attachment and separation here, and tune into our higher emotional states of time-space, like joy, love, passion, optimism, and hope, which are born of interconnectedness, just like the universe. Now, if that made sense, welcome to the club, and if not, ask below, and I'll try and elaborate more. If you're wondering why your manifestation isn't working, it's probably because you're not connecting, aligning, and vibrating at the frequency the universe is for that manifestation to occur. The frequency of the space-time that you want to create. It's in a different bubble. You need to go within and retune your whole being to that new space-time instead of the one that you're currently living in. Some call this stepping into the person you need to become in order to manifest your desire, and this is a good analogy. It's like opening a doorway into the universe next door and stepping through with certainty, not keeping one foot in the door just in case. And I've actually got a good guided meditation for that, which is to meet your future self. But if you really want to know how to raise your vibration to manifest in time-space, watch this video, which explains the 7-step process of doing just that. And until next time, my friend, live your light.
Hello there.
It's quite mind-boggling. Lands on somewhere, and it lands on and it probably hurts his head. For goodness sake.